non-diet perfume ingredients with alcohol. So it had this really fresh smell, in difference to all the other perfumes on the market at this time, which were really flowery and really thick. So the family Farina says that they still use the same recipe for their perfume today, like they used in the 711 times. I don't believe it, but you can smell the traditional perfume. It was now sold under the name Eau de Cologne. Today, in a lot of countries, I don't know where you're from, cologne is used as a word for perfume. And that's because of Mr. Farina, who started to sell these really special, really expensive cologne. And after a short amount of time, everyone wanted to have it, because Louis XIV in Versailles used this perfume. So it was sold really expensive, and the Cologne people, like I said, were really sneaky merchants. So everyone started to copy it. The whole city suddenly was selling Eau de Cologne under the name Farina. And after a few years, the family Farina came to the city council and asked that no one other than this family is allowed to sell under the name Farina. So all the copycats in the city had to stop selling under the name Farina. A lot of them just went bankrupt. But one other perfume distillery made it through the time, and they just named themselves after their house number. And they are 4711 today. And that's the other big producer of Eau de Cologne. So we have two big producers of Eau de Cologne in Cologne at the moment.
Is it still expensive?
This costs €8. So it's still expensive. That's only the little dry bottle, and it costs €8. So it's still really expensive. But I think it's expensive because of the tradition. Because everyone from around the world comes to Cologne to try cologne. I don't think it's because this cologne is so perfect, but it's the tradition and they make money off the tradition. Okay, let's move on. Citizens of Cologne had always a really difficult relationship with their archbishops, and the only really archbishop the Cologne people liked is this guy, Cardinal Frings. Even today our archbishop is really problematic, and every few years there are discussions about them, but this guy is the only archbishop every Colognian, every history writer says, yeah, this was the good guy. And he's the only one who got a statue on the city tower, because he was the Archbishop of Cologne after the Second World War. And it was a time where really a lot of people here were poor, they had nothing, and it was a really cold winter. And he was the one who started to give the church money to the poor, to the people of Cologne. And his most famous speech was the New Year speech in the year 1946. Because in this speech he said, if you need to steal from someone, from something, because you are so hungry, because you need it to live, that's not a sin, that's okay with God, you are allowed to steal. So yeah, the Cologne people took that at his word and started to steal a lot. And till today, if you steal in Cologne, it's called Fringsen. So you frings something, that means you steal something. Yeah, but he's the good guy. So yeah, he's the most famous archbishop or cardinal of Cologne. That's always difficult because it's Cologne is officially an archbishop seat, which is one step under a cardinal, but traditionally a cardinal is the archbishop of Cologne. No one knows why. Okay. People of Cologne are known as the Italians in Germany, so they're a bit lazy and maybe not the best people to work with. But there's a legend which explains the whole situation. And it's shown behind me. You see on all these little picture on the sides, there are different work stations in a day. So you have bakers, you have brewers, you have butchers, everything. And the legend tells that the people of Cologne didn't work at all. All the work was done by the Heinzelmännchen, which are kind of like magic dwarfs. And they only came in the night. They did all the work for all the people of Cologne. And in the morning when the people did wake up, they just had no work to do, all the work was done and they celebrated the whole day. But these Heinzelmännchen are extremely shy creatures, so no one ever saw them. They only came out when everyone was sleeping and no one knew how they looked. But the tailor's wife was really curious and she really wanted to see what they look like, what they do, everything. So she started to stay up at night and wanted to see the Heinzelmännchen. But every time she stayed up, the Heinzelmännchen just didn't show. So she came up with a plan. She started to, on the stairs of the tailory, she started to lay out peace. And at night, when everyone was asleep, the Heinzelmännchen showed up and they fell down the stairs because of the peace. And she just came out with her lamp and just saw the Heinzelmännchen. So she was proud, she saw them, she was happy, everything was fine. But the Heinzelmännchen, these shy creatures, they were mad. And they swore to never show up in Cologne again, never do the work again. And suddenly, just because the tailor's wife was really curious, the people of Cologne had to do all the work themselves. So that's the tradition why Cologne people are lazy. We didn't know how to do it. It's just not in our blood. Okay, so that would be the end of my tour. I just tell you something about the Cologne beer, because that's important for you to know if you would stay in Cologne longer. The Cologne beer called Kölsch is really famous in the whole world, and you see here in the background is one of the breweries who sell Kölsch. Kölsch is only thing since 1906. That's the first time one of the breweries sold under the name Kölsch. But the breweries in Cologne are really close bunch. Some people say it's like a monopoly they have on the Cologne beer because they wrote a law, a Cologne beer law. It's not really a law because it's not binding. But for them, it's just okay. That's the only breweries who are allowed to sell Kölsch if you hold yourself to the standards of this law. And it says on one side how to brew the beer, what ingredients, whatever. And on the other side, it says you are only allowed to call it Kölsch if the brewery process is on the city, inside the city borders of Cologne. So that makes the beer of Cologne like champagne. It's only allowed to be called Kölsch if it's brewed here in Cologne. And it makes also it really hard to start a new Kölsch brewery, because you need to buy a complex of buildings in Cologne that's big enough to have a factory. So you have to have a lot of start money if you want to compete in the Kölsch market. So at the moment there are 24 different Kölsch sorts, types of Kölsch. and there's no place that sells all of them. So if you want to try every of these 24 Kölsch types, you have to move around and travel through the city to the different Kölsch places. Here is one of the biggest ones, but there are a lot of smaller ones you only get in certain restaurants, certain pubs, certain kiosks, and you can't buy anywhere else in any supermarkets.